Hey Vsauce, Michael here. Wait, wrong timeline.
Yo, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Twit or Mo, and I'm here today for 5 Final Fantasy XIV tips. These tips aren't in any specific order, but as someone who's recently gotten lost in the sauce with this game, I figured I'd share some tips that I've picked up along the way in my short playtime. Cause hey, I was like you, clicking on those tips for new players videos as well. So with that, let's go ahead and hop on into it. Here are my 5 best tips for new players by a new player. This is an important one, as Final Fantasy XIV has one of, if not the most customizable HUD and game experiences I've ever had. There are a ton of options and HUD layout possibilities, so take some time to figure out what works for you. Keep in mind that as a new player, you obviously won't really know what HUD options you will need as you progress, and that there are some HUD features you won't have unlocked until you're higher level. Just take your time and design your HUD the way that you like it, because there is a 4,000% chance that you will spend at least 100 hours changing and fine-tuning it anyways. In addition to making HUD layouts, don't forget about the macros. This is one of the things that really impressed me about 14. Essentially, you're allowed to write your own in-game scripts using the macro system to combine virtually any number of actions, chat commands, timers, and more to a macro. However, keep in mind that combining a bunch of combat action macros can result in bad habits, and that will be hard to break later on. So if you have to ask yourself, am I putting too much into this macro? Chances are the answer is yes, and if you've gotten to that point, the answer has probably been yes for a while. So try to consolidate your macros as much as possible, as they're very powerful and extremely useful, but really easy to produce bad habits. This goes without saying for a veteran MMO player, but you may be new to the genre as a whole, so I figured I'd throw this out there for any of you guys that are. Even if you're not new to playing MMOs, you might think you have a general idea of how most skills work, and for the most part, you might be right. But in Final Fantasy XIV, there is so much information to consume, and it's just best to take your time and understand what your skills do. That also goes for new feature tips as well, since you will be seeing a lot of that green circle pop up, letting you know that you just unlocked another feature of the game. Take your time, read through those guides, as it will make progressing through the game a little less confusing when you've got new combat and non-combat mechanics available to use. Okay, so this is going to be a big section because it is of pretty big importance. For me, I have quite a lot of experience playing support in other games, as I've been a healer and a support main in almost every other game I play. So maining a healer class came naturally to me, but you might not necessarily have that natural understanding of how your job might work. At the very core of the combat system in 14, there are 3 main roles, and if you keep in mind the basics of your role, you can build your skill set from there. If you're a tank, your job is to tank, keep the enemies from attacking anyone else, and your healers especially. You need to keep that aggro on you. If you're a big number baby DPS player, just remember that you don't need to pull like a tank. You don't have the HP pool they do, and you definitely don't have the ability to fully heal yourself, generally speaking. Focus on doing as much damage as possible and work on learning the fights and mechanics later. If you're a healer, at the very least, your focus should be healing. DPS and tank jobs don't have a ton of self-healing, so they rely on you to keep them topped off and healthy. So learn how low you're willing to let your party members' HP get before you need to use a heal on them. Another concept I like to keep in mind that kind of closely ties into this is that it is okay to fail. If you die in a dungeon, it's fine. If you wipe in a raid, it's fine. If you fail a trial, it is literally fine. You have heals, you have mitigations, there is escapes for a reason. That reason is because the enemy's objective is to reduce your HP to 0. Sometimes they just happen to be successful at that, and guess what? Healers have a res button. It's built into their kit for a reason. It's supposed to be used. Don't feel bad if you die a lot while playing. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. Look, everyone started somewhere, and even the highest tier best raiders on your server still wipe to mechanics from time to time, guaranteed. You don't know until you've tried, and you can't try unless you're willing to fail. So pick yourself up and dust yourself off, or something like that, right? That's how it goes. Lastly, on the topic of understanding your role, and this is definitely an important one as you move into higher end content, utilize the striking dummies. These are very useful for target practice, as you can practice your rotations as a DPS and a tank, and you can also practice using your healer skills. Although healers are less about a certain rotation and more about reactions and knowing your kit. But nonetheless, healers can also utilize striking dummies to practice GCDs and timing to get comfortable, using skills on a target. Tip number 4. MSQ, or main scenario quest, is not indicative of in-game content in combat. Realize that leveling through MSQ and even a lot of early game and low level content is not quite all there is to combat in 14. At a glance, it might seem a little slow as far as your skill rotations, especially pre-60, but once you hit level 60, the skills acquired and rotations still aren't even complete. Don't let yourself become uninspired by early level playstyles, as it seems slow now, but I can assure you it does pick up. Just go check out any in-game raider who's streaming. Here's a couple that I like. By the way, if you're, over on Twitch, come check us out, twitch.tv/hiamtwit. That'd be pretty cool. Additionally, there is a reason combat at early levels isn't fast paced, and that's because there are a ton of skills for every class. In general, each class has about 20 skills at their disposal at any one time, so getting familiar with your skills at a slower pace is actually really important. It also helps you realize that some skills, while needed in certain content or situations, aren't always a necessity, so you can prevent yourself from becoming too overwhelmed with how many skills there are. This ties back into tips number 2 and 3. As you begin to get more comfortable in your role or the class that you chose to play, you'll build a mental and a muscle memory for what's important in certain situations and what isn't. No class is too big brain. Now, I saved this tip for last on purpose. This is my favorite and what I think to be the most important tip as a new player. Every class in this game is very, very well balanced. The main reason why I was interested in playing this game to begin with is because one of the classes shown to me was Astrologian. I love everything about Astrologian, from the aesthetic to the playstyle, the animations, the skills, everything. The class is so unique, it's genuinely so unique and fun to play, for me. However, I hesitated when I first started the game because many players tried to convince me that Astro was just too big brain and too complex for a new player. This is me telling you that this is absolutely not the case. Obviously, some classes are more complex than others, but I've mentioned it multiple times throughout this video. Learn your role, understand your kit, read your tooltips. As long as you keep in mind that the game gives you virtually every piece of knowledge to play your class efficiently, then there's no reason you should ever feel afraid to play a complex class. As long as you're having fun with it and you're enjoying yourself, the complexity of a class literally does not matter. Now, I know I said this was just going to be 5 tips for new players, but I actually did reach out to Twitter and Discord for other players' opinions for tips for new players, right? Here is a few honorable mentions. By the way, if you're a veteran player and you've got some good tips you think that maybe didn't get covered in this video, let me know in the comment section down below. It'll help us all out. It'll even help you out in those leveling roulettes. Trust me. But with that, I'm wrapping up the video there. I appreciate you guys for checking out the video. If you guys would like to see more and join us alongside my, playthrough of MSQ and just learning the game as a whole, you can join us over on twitch.tv/hiamtwit. The link will be in the description down below. I appreciate you guys for all watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. As always though, it's been Twit and I'm out this bitch. Peace. Yeah.